Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Miranda and I am the Enchantress of Avalon. So for today's Fairy Friday video, I have decided to talk about one of my own personal archetypal theories that I've developed through a lot of readings of the Arthurian legends. And I call it the Mystical Femme Fatale Archetype. And I did write an entire blog post on my blog, whiteroseofavalon.life, and I will link the blog post down in the description box below. So I'm going to start with defining what I mean by a mystical femme fatale. It is a woman who is magical, either having some sort of actual magical abilities or an aura of intrigue of some sort. And also, she could be a beacon of light for others because she doesn't have to be a negative magical influence to fit into this archetype. She has both classic femme fatale features as well as features of a mystic. So it's that femme fatale mixed with the mystic, mixed with a little bit of a lover thrown in there as well. And obviously, the epitome of this kind of archetype is Morgan Le Fay herself. And anyone who is familiar with my content knows how much I absolutely adore Morgan Le Fay. And she was a big point in me coming up with this archetype because I was trying to think about how the evolution of her throughout the Arthurian legends all fits together, as it really does. Figures are more complex than simply being just one thing. And I think even archetypes can be more complex. You can have an archetype that merges other archetypes. And that's kind of what I was feeling into when I developed this whole archetype theory and when I was writing about it. I wrote about it way back in I think like March of this year, and I've been kind of feeling into this archetype myself and thinking about how this archetype can really help us work on ourselves is the best way to phrase that. So basically, for Morgan, we have her beginning as this very benevolent figure in the Vita Merlini, and she evolves from this benevolent goddess and healer to eventually she was Arthur's half-sister in Chrétien de Troyes' Arthurian romances, but she didn't have a very big role there, and she didn't have her more deadly aspects yet that would come later in her evolution as coming to be the baddest of all the Arthurian women, very, very much so the baddie of the Arthurian legends. But she kept her healing abilities and she kept the magical abilities. She's not very present, but she is referenced, and we do know that she had concocted healing potions even in that telling. It's really the Vulgate cycle that we first see this. She's this evil sorceress, this evil enchantress bent on destroying Camelot, and that's the best known version of her. And you have this reference all the way through the medieval text as she's devolving from goddess, benevolent fairy woman, sister of Arthur, eventually half sister of Arthur, who also wants to destroy Camelot, where she's gone from a powerful benevolent figure to a powerful malevolent one. But in reality, I think all of these things can be true. And that's where this archetype comes into play and fits in with everything. So who else would fit into this archetype? Well, Guinevere herself fits into this archetype because she has those positive attributes and the mystical attributes that are necessary, but she also has the femme fatale attributes. She has the attributes of being an adulterous wife, and she, like Morgan, gets a very bad rap in the legends a lot of times of, oh, she's just this, the wife of Arthur who couldn't stay loyal to her king. Really? Is that what we really think? There's a lot more to it than that. That's a very baseline way of looking at it. Just like looking at Morgan as just the wicked enchantress who wants to overthrow a kingdom is a very basic way of looking at it. When you dig deeper, you find the layers, and you find that these figures have a lot more going on than just the wicked things they may do. Other figures I list in my blog post as applying to this archetype in some way include Dame Ragnall, Enid, Blanchefleur, Lunette, and Laudine. And I'm not going to go deep into any of them in this video. I only have so much time after all. But if you want a more in-depth discussion of why they fit into the archetype, please click the link in the description box below and read my article, my blog post that is, on myroseofavalon.life. Now, what is the appeal of this archetype? The appeal of this archetype is that these women are both strong and sexy. They are intelligent but still attractive. They contain what some may view as opposing elements of personality, but it's still very powerful. There are those opposing elements. There is that duality of nature. I feel a very dual nature within the archetype, and I think this is kind of an offhanded thought. It's not applying directly to the Arthurian legends in this case, but I think we could even look at other goddesses like, say, Persephone as having this dual aspect. Persephone does have a dual aspect. She's the goddess of springtime, but she's also the goddess of the underworld, the queen of the underworld. So she has flowers and death. She's literally balancing life and death. She's the sweet, beneficent springtime goddess, but at the same time, she's also the dread Persephone ruling the underworld beside her husband. So she has those two very seemingly disconnected dual aspects to her. And I have talked about how I think Bloodawoth and Persephone have connections because of a dual aspected nature, because Bloodawoth is both the flower bride, literally a maiden made of flowers, and she is also the night owl, the hunting bird, stalking prey. And I have a blog post about that as well that I can link in the description box, explaining the connection between Bloodawoth and Persephone that I have found through working through studying the myths of both goddesses. And they both could be included in this mystical femme fatale archetype. It's that duality of nature. And I think there's power in working with both our lighter aspects and our shadow aspects. And I think that's the heart of the matter when it comes to the mystical femme fatale archetype, and why it is so powerful to want to embody this is you're working with both aspects of yourself. We all have lighter aspects and we all have shadow aspects. And of course, many want to just push away those shadow aspects. It's healthy to work with those shadow aspects, and it's healthy to integrate the shadow aspects with the light aspects. And I think that's why I was attracted to this theory as I was developing it. It was, I don't have to be one or the other, because I am both, because most people are both. And when I'm working through archetypes and feeling into what archetypes feel genuine for me, why do I have to be just this archetype or that archetype singularly? Why can't I integrate them together? And that's what I did when I was writing this. And as I've been thinking about and working with this energy, as I've read more about this over the last several months, that it really solidified into this really beautiful, fully formed theory of how you could work with this energy. So, basically, to work with this archetype, we are essentially working with the queen, the lover, the high priestess all rolled into one. If you want to look at it from an aspect of, say, the tarot, we're working with the empress, we're working with the high priestess, and we're also throwing the lovers in there as well. We're combining these energies and really feeling into what it would feel like to embrace all of these different aspects of ourselves. It really is beautiful. And it really is something that if you want to read into personality theory and look at, say, the Enneagram or the MBTI or just basic Jungian psychology and Jung's original archetypes, it's born through that as well for me, of working through reading all of these different things and feeling into what feels true about my own personality and how I can better know myself, better know other people, and how I can be most fulfilled in my life. This archetype feels very fulfilling for me. And I also recommend, if you're interested in the more mystical side of archetypes, Jean Shinita Bolin wrote several books. There are at least 3 that she wrote on goddess and god archetypes. And so there's goddesses in every woman, gods in every man, and there's also goddesses in older women. And that's based specifically in the Greco-Roman pantheon. And being that she was a doctor who studied the Jungian philosophy, she based it on Jung's original archetypes and used Jungian psychology and merged it with the Greco-Roman myths. It's very interesting, and it's a great starting off point if you're looking into the more mystical or magical side of archetype theory. I do hope you have enjoyed this short video on what I call the Mystical Femme Fatale Archetype. I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments below if you do have any thoughts on this. Is it something you feel drawn to? Do you think that this theory of this archetype makes sense? Is it valid or not? I think it is, but please let me know in the comments below. And please check out my blog, whiteroseofavalon.life. And if you're interested in what I have said here, please also like, subscribe, and check out my Discord server. The link for that is always in the comments below. Have a very fabulous Fairy Friday, everyone. Bye now.